The ship landed with a soft hiss on the edge of a silent alien forest. Tall trees with purple leaves stood still, and the sky above was pale green. Callan stepped out slowly, wearing his light armor and a broken smile. He had been sent here alone too. Fix an old relay tower and return. No people, no cities. Just machines and trees. At least, that's what the report said. He walked through the forest. Tools in his pack and a scanner in his hand. Birds didn't sing here, and the wind didn't blow. But something felt alive around him, watching, breathing, hiding. He ignored the feeling. Trying to focus on his mission, after walking for 2 hours, he found the tower it stood half broken. Wires hanging like vines, he sighed and sat down. His pack, when he reached to pull out a tool, a sharp edge on the metal sliced across his left forearm. He cursed under his breath and looked at the blood. The old scar on his arm, faded and flame-shaped, had opened slightly. He hadn't thought about that scar in years. He was told he had it since he was a baby. He never knew how he got it. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound behind him, a whisper in the wind. He turned quickly, pulling out his sidearm. There she stood, an alien woman, tall and graceful. Her skin a soft blue with silver markings. Her long, white hair moved gently. Though there was no breeze, she wore a dark robe made of woven leaves and light armor beneath it. Her eyes were large and glowing faintly. But what shocked him was her face filled with emotion, fear, and something else. Recognition. They stared at each other for a long moment. Neither moved, neither spoke. Finally, she stepped closer, slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might scare him away. Her eyes dropped to his arm. The blood had smeared a bit, revealing the full shape of the scar. When she saw it, her lips parted, and her body froze. Her hands shook, and then she whispered, in a trembling voice, "This scar. You are that child." Callan blinked, confused. "What?" he said, but she didn't answer. Instead, she dropped to one knee, her head lowered. It looked like she was about to cry. "I don't understand," he said, stepping back slightly. "Who are you?" She looked up, her voice shaking. "I was there. I saw the Queen carry you into the flame." He laughed nervously. "I think you're mistaking me for someone else," but she shook her head quickly. "No, no. It's you, the flame child. The one we saved." Callan's hand went to his arm. Feeling the old mark, he remembered nothing about it. Just that it had always been there. "Listen, I don't know what you're talking about," he said. "I'm just here to fix a tower and leave." She stood slowly, eyes never leaving his. "You came back," she said, more to herself than to him. "After all these years, came back from where?" He asked. "I grew up on Earth, with human parents." She stepped closer again. Now only a few feet from him, he didn't raise his weapon. Something in her voice, in her sadness, stopped him. "We lost everything," she said. "Our cities. Our queens, our hope. But the prophecy said the child would return, and when he did, the scar would shine again." Callan shook his head, trying to make sense of her words. Prophecy, queen. Flame? He was just a technician, not some chosen warrior. "I think you have the wrong guy," he said again, softer this time. But his heart was racing, because deep down, something inside him was whispering too. The woman turned away slowly, walking back into the trees, but before she vanished into the forest, she looked over her shoulder and said, "The others will come, and when they do, they won't ask questions." Then she was gone. Callan stood there in silence, looking at his arm. The scar had stopped bleeding, but it still burned just a little. He felt cold, alone, and somehow watched. The forest was no longer quiet. It had secrets now, and he had just stepped into one of them. Callan couldn't sleep that night. He sat by the broken relay tower, a small fire burning beside him. The alien woman's words echoed in his mind. This scar. You are that child. He kept looking at his arm. The old flame-shaped scar was still there, glowing faintly under the firelight. It had never done that before. He had scanned for her presence after she left, but his scanner showed nothing. No. Heat signature, no movement. It was like she had vanished, but somehow. He knew she hadn't gone far. In the morning, Callan followed a strange path of silver leaves leading away from the tower. The path curved through thick trees and glowing blue moss. It didn't feel random. It felt like a trail left for him. After an hour of walking, he reached a high cliff. Below it, hidden in the rock face, was an ancient stone structure. It looked like a temple half buried and covered in vines. Strange symbols were carved into the walls. He couldn't read them, but they looked old, powerful, and full of meaning. The woman was waiting near the entrance. Standing still, her silver eyes met his, and she nodded silently. Callan walked down the stone steps toward her, unsure what he was doing but unable to stop. I thought you left, he said quietly. I did, she replied. But the forest told me you would come. He raised an eyebrow. The forest talks. She looked at the trees with calm respect. Everything talks, if you listen. He didn't understand her, but he followed her inside anyway. The inside of the temple was dark and cold. Faint light glowed from the walls like fireflies trapped. In stone, carvings covered every surface, alien symbols, creatures, stars, battles. And then, near the baka carving of a human child. Being carried by tall, armored aliens, the child had a flame on his arm, just like Callan's scar. He stepped closer, staring in shock. That's not possible, he whispered. The woman stood beside him, her voice soft. This is the story they erased, she said. The story they made us forget. Callan turned to her. Tell me. She sat down beside a stone basin filled with glowing water. Her voice was calm, but heavy. Many years ago, during the Great War, our queen saw the end coming, she said. Our cities were burning, our people dying. She had visions of fire and ash, of stars turning cold. But in her last vision, she saw Hapa, human child, alone in a wreck, marked by flame. Callan's hands began to shake. That can't be me. She ordered her guards to find the child. The woman continued. To save him, protect him, and hide him away from those who feared him. She believed he would return one day, and when he did, our world would rise again. Callan took a step back. You're telling me I was part of some prophecy? The woman nodded slowly. You were more than part of it, she said. You were the center. He laughed nervously, confused and scared. I'm just a technician, he said. I fix old tech. I follow orders. I don't even remember anything before I was 5. She looked at him with sad eyes. They wiped your memory, she said. Whoever found you after the rescue, they didn't want you to know who you were. Callan's breathing grew fast. His whole life. Was it a lie? Every memory false. Every moment controlled. Why me? He asked. Why a human child? Queen believed humans held something special. She said, something even our kind lost long ago. Compassion. Callan was silent. He didn't know what to say. This woman believed every word she said, and part of him wanted to believe it too. Suddenly, a deep thrum shook the ground. The walls of the temple groaned. The woman stood quickly, eyes wide. They found us, she whispered. Who? Callan asked, drawing his blaster. Those who fear the prophecy, she said. They followed my signal. They want to kill you before the scar awakens fully. Callan's blood ran cold. Wait, kill me. She grabbed his hand. No time, follow me. They ran deeper into the temple, down dark tunnels. The walls began to glow brighter as they moved, responding to Callan's presence. The woman looked back at him, shocked. It's already begun. She whispered, behind them. Footsteps echoed multiple, fast and armored. Enemies were coming. The story she had told. It wasn't just old legend anymore. It was real, and now it had come for him. The tunnel walls shook as dust fell from the ceiling. Callan kept running, his boots hitting the stone floor hard. Behind him, the alien woman moved fast despite her calm nature. Her long white hair flowed like smoke in the dim light. Footsteps echoed behind them, getting closer. Whoever was following them was armed, fast, and serious. The woman grabbed Callan's arm and pulled him through a narrow crack in the wall. He slipped through just in time before she sealed the wall shut by, pressing her hand on a hidden panel. The footsteps faded. They were safe at least for a moment. Callan leaned against the stone, breathing hard. His arm still burned where the scar was. He looked at the alien woman, eyes wide. "What is happening?" he asked. "Who are these people? Why are they hunting me?" She sat down on a low rock, her voice low and tired. "Because if the prophecy is true, then you are more dangerous than any weapon." Callan stared at her. "Me? I don't even remember anything." She placed a hand on the glowing wall, and a new passage opened behind them. "We don't have time for full answers," she said. "But I will show you something only you must see." They walked down the new passage, the light dim and pulsing. It ended in a round chamber filled with carvings and one large circular pool. Above it, a beam of soft blue light fell. From the ceiling, "This is the memory hall," she said. "It holds what the stars remember." She handed him a small crystal disc from her pouch and motioned him to place it in the center of the pool. As soon as he did, the water glowed brightly, and a vision formed in the light. Flashback, 22 years age. The sky above the alien capital burned red. Ships exploded mid-air, raining fire over the city. Screams echoed through the palace walls. A tall alien queen stood at the center of a glowing chamber. Her skin pale and cracked, her breath weak. She held a human infant tiny, crying and covered in ash. That baby had the flame-shaped scar glowing on his tiny arm. Guards rushed in. "My queen, the humans are retreating. Should we destroy the child?" one asked. The queen shook her head slowly. "No," she said, her voice firm but full of sorrow. "This child is not our enemy." She handed the baby to a young female Gartha. Same woman now standing with Callan. "Take him," the queen said. "Hide him where even the stars cannot reach." The guard nodded, tears in her silver eyes. The queen smiled faintly at the baby. "You are our last hope," she whispered. "Let the flame guide you back one day." As the guard ran, the ceiling above the palace cracked. The last thing seen in the vision was fire falling from the sky. The image faded, and the water stilled. Callan stood frozen. His voice was barely a whisper. "That baby. That was me." The woman looked down, her expression soft. "Yes," she said. "I carried you to the stars." Callan stepped back. Overwhelmed, he shook his head. "No, I grew up in a shelter on Earth." He said, "I had parents, adopted." She said gently, "You were found alone in a pod near the outer belt. Those who raised you didn't know your past tour, didn't want you to know it." Callan dropped to his knees, his hands shaking. "So everything I know is false." He whispered, "My life. It started here." The woman sat beside him, her voice quiet but strong. "You were never just a child, Callan," she said. "You were a sign of peace, of hope, of something new." He looked at her, tears forming in his eyes. "I don't want to be a sign," he said. "I just want to be me." "I know," she said. "But you are still you only now. You know the truth." A loud crack sounded from above. The ceiling shook again. The enemy had found the entrance. The woman stood, pulling Callan up. "You must keep moving," she said. "There is more. You must see Depora below. Why are they after me now? Callan asked. Because she said, the scar on your arm has begun to glow. That means the relic will soon awaken. Relic? He asked, confused. She looked at him with urgency. It's a key of force that can change the fate of the system, she said. They want to destroy it before you can reach it. Callan wiped his face, heart still racing. He didn't feel like a hero or a chosen one, but he wasn't a lost child anymore. He had a past now, and it was written in fire. As they began to descend deeper into the ruins, the woman whispered, "Do you remember the day the sky fell?" Callan looked ahead. "No," he said, "but I think I'm starting to feel it." The lower tunnels were colder. Callan and the alien woman moved fast through narrow stone corridors. Only the glowing blue lines along the walls gave them light. Behind them, the sound of metal footsteps echoed, growing louder with every turn. "They're too close," Callan whispered, gripping his blaster tightly. "They won't stop." She replied softly, "They've been waiting 20 years for this moment." "Who are they?" he asked, his breath heavy. "They are the Black Suns," she said. "Warriors from my own world, twisted by fear. Trained to kill anything that threatens the old balance." Callan frowned. "I thought you said I was supposed to save your people." She looked at him, eyes full of pain. "You are," she said. "But not all of us want to be saved." A blast shook the tunnel behind them, and part of the ceiling collapsed. Dust filled the air, and Callan coughed as small stones hit his back. They kept running deeper into the old ruins. The air grew thick, filled with strange energy after a long, winding path. They reached a small chamber. It was empty except for a round crystal in the center. Floating just above the floor, the alien woman reached into her pouch and took out a small silver shard. She handed it to Callan without a word. He looked at her, confused. "What is it?" he asked. "The key," she said, "to the next door, but only your scar can activate it." He looked down at his arm. The flame-shaped scar was glowing again, brighter now. It pulsed in time with the crystal. With a deep breath, he stepped forward and placed the shard inside the glowing crystal. The entire room trembled, and the walls began to shift. A hidden door opened, revealing a spiral staircase leading further down. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed behind them, blaster fire. The Black Suns had broken through the tunnel wall. "Go!" she shouted, pushing Callan toward the stairs. He hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll slow them down," she said, pulling out a long blade from her side. "I was trained to protect you, remember?" He stared at her for one moment, her eyes glowing with courage and sadness. Then he turned and ran. He descended the stairs, his heart pounding in his chest. Above him, the sounds of battle began, blades clashing, energy blasts exploding. Every step down felt heavy. He didn't want to leave her behind, but she had made her choice to fight for him. When he reached the bottom, the stairs ended in a large chamber glowing with soft, golden light. It was warm, peaceful like a dream. In the center of the room stood a stone platform, and on it rested a sphere of light, spinning slowly in the air. Callan approached carefully. The light from his scar glowed even brighter, now matching the rhythm of the sphere. He reached out his hand, but before he could touch it, a voice behind him spoke. "You weren't supposed to survive." Callan turned quickly, raising his blaster. A tall alien in dark armor stood at the edge of the room. His face was hidden, but his voice was cold. "I don't know who you are," Callan said, "but I'm done running." The armored figure laughed. "You're not a warrior," he said. "You're a mistake." Callan didn't answer. He felt something rising inside him, not anger, but fire. It was the same fire that burned in his scar, the same fire that once fell from the sky. "Then why am I the one standing here?" Callan asked, his voice steady. The enemy raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a flash of silver light flew across the room. The alien woman, bleeding, bruised, but alive, leapt from the shadows and slammed her blade into the enemy's chest. He fell backward, his weapon dropping to the floor. She stood beside Callan, breathing hard. "I told you I'd protect you," she whispered, smiling weakly. Callan looked at her with wide eyes. "You came back? I never left," she replied. He turned to the glowing sphere and stepped forward. As he touched it, his scar flared with light. The room lit up, and waves of energy flowed outward like wind. The relic had awakened, but it didn't explode or burn. It pulsed with warmth. "What is it?" he asked, watching it slowly settle in the air. She looked at it with awe. "The heart of balance," she said. "A power that brings peace, war depending on the one who touches it." Callan's hand dropped to his side. "I don't want war," he said. "I just want to know who I really am." She nodded slowly. Then the relic chose the right one. The chamber began to change, walls turning clear like glass, showing the stars beyond the earth, and in those stars, something stirred. Callan had unlocked more than a relic. He had awakened the eyes of a forgotten galaxy, and now they were all watching him. The stars outside the chamber slowly faded from view as the crystal walls dimmed again. The heart of balance floated silently in the air, its glow soft, now almost gentle. Callan stood beside it, still breathing hard. The light from his scar fading back to a warm orange. Beside him, the alien woman leaned against the wall, her shoulder bleeding, but her face calm. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the slow hum of the relic filled the room like a song with no words. "Finally," she whispered, "there is still one more place we must go." Callan turned to her, confused. "I thought this was it," he said. Motioning to the heart of balance, I touched the relic. It responded, "What else is there?" She looked at him seriously. "The relic only awakened," she said. "It didn't judge you. Judge me." He repeated, raising an eyebrow. She stood straighter, pushing off the wall with effort. "There is a trial," she said, "a place where the scar is tested. If you are truly the flame child, then it will accept you. And if I'm not?" Callan asked quietly. She looked down. "Then it will burn you." Callan went silent. His mouth felt dry, and his heart thudded in his chest. But he nodded. "Then show me where it is." The path led through another tunnel. This one, older than the rest, the walls were cracked, the symbols faded, and a soft heat touched the air. They walked in silence, step after step, until the stone gave way to black glass. The tunnel ended at a wide circular chamber, filled with orange light. At the center of the room stood a pool of fire, but it didn't burn. It moved like liquid, calm and slow. Above it floated an old carving made of gold and crystal. A child surrounded by flames, reaching out to the stars. Callan stared at the fire. It didn't give off smoke or flame, but he could feel it inside his chest like a quiet heartbeat. "This is the Cave of Fire," the woman said, stepping forward carefully. "No one has entered it since the Queen's death." Callan swallowed hard. "What do I do?" he asked. "Step into the fire," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He blinked. "Step into it." She nodded. "If you are the one, it will show you the truth," she said. "If not, your story ends here." Callan looked at his scar. It was glowing against low and steady. He took off his jacket and walked toward the pool. The heat grew stronger, but it didn't hurt. He stepped in. At first, he expected to feel pain, but the fire welcomed him, wrapped around his legs, his chest, his arms. His body felt light, like he was floating. And then everything turned white. Inside the fire, Callan stood in a world of flame. But the fire didn't burn. It whispered instead, speaking in voices old and deep. He saw flashes, the Queen placing the mark on his arm, her eyes full of hope and fear. He saw her whisper to the stars as his pod was launched. He saw the alien woman, young, afraid but strong, carrying him across broken lands. Then he saw Earth, his adopted parents, the lonely nights. The silent questions. He had always felt different. Now he knew why. The flames moved faster, forming shapes 1,000 stars falling into war. A single flame rising among them. The fire whispered one word, again and again: balance. Then the fire showed him one last vision, him standing in the center of two great armies. One alien, one human, both waiting, both watching, and him, not in anger, but in peace. The vision faded. Callan opened his eyes and found himself standing in the chamber again. The fire pool was gone. In its place was a mark on the floor glowing the same shape as his scar. The alien woman stood nearby, tears in her eyes. She had watched the whole thing. It accepted you. She said softly, "The cave accepted you." Callan nodded slowly, his body still warm. "I saw everything," he said. "Her." "You?" "Me." He stepped out of the center of the room and looked at the walls. They were glowing with new symbols freshly written in fire. He couldn't read them, but he didn't need to. He could feel what they meant. "You are ready," the woman said. "For what?" he asked. She looked into his eyes. "To lead us." He looked down at his scar, now shining like a tiny sun. He didn't feel ready, but the fire had accepted him, and now, so had she. Far above, the stars were moving. The galaxy was changing, and the flame child had finally awakened. Asterisk. The tunnel back to the relic chamber felt shorter on the return. Callan's steps were steady, but his mind raced like thunder. The K-fire still warmed his skin, and the mark on his arm shone bright orange. The alien woman walked beside him, a small smile hiding deep fatigue. Every few paces, she glanced at his scar, as if checking that the light was real and not a dream. They entered the great chamber where the heart of balance still floated. Its glow greeted them, brighter than before. New lines of energy ran through the walls like living veins. The relic had tasted the flame child spirit, and now it pulsed for more. Callan stepped onto the platform once again. The orange light of his scar reached out. Touching the relic with an invisible hand, a soft chime filled the air, gentle yet powerful. The woman whispered, "It recognizes you." He closed his eyes, feeling the hum flow into his bones. Suddenly, the chamber expanded in his mind. He could feel each stone, each beam of light, each breath of his companion. And beyond the walls, he sensed movement. Dozens of armored soldiers closing in. "They are coming fast," he said without opening his eyes. She gasped. "You can sense them." "Yes," he answered, "like dark sparks in the air." He raised his glowing arm, and the heart of balance released a wave of gold light. The wave rushed through the corridors, and for a moment the distant footfalls stopped. Each soldier paused. Startled by a warmth that washed over their anger, Callan exhaled. "It bought us minutes, not more." The woman placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then make those minutes count," she said, her voice steady. He nodded and focused again. Images filled his mind: galactic charts, ancient wars, faces of humans and aliens alike. The relic was cues. The relic was offering him knowledge, but the flow was wild, dangerous. He had to guide it, not drown in it. He remembered the vision in the fire, the two armies waiting. He pictured them now. And the relic responded. From its core, beams of colored light shot into the ceiling, carving a map across the stone like a starfield. Each beam pointed to a world scarred by war. He felt their pain as if it were his own. The chamber doors exploded inward. Black suns stormed in, weapons raised, armor shining under the golden glow. Their leader stepped forward, a tall figure with crimson markings on his helm. He pointed a blaster straight at Callan. "Step away from the relic." The leader shouted, his voice cold as iron. Callan did not move. Instead, he lifted his scarred arm higher, and the light brightened. The ground between them burst upward, forming a wall of shimmering energy. A second wave of warmth bloomed through the room. Several soldiers lowered their weapons, confused by memories of childhood and laughter suddenly flashing in their minds. The leader snarled, "Do not listen to the lies of the flame child," he fired. But the energy wall absorbed the shot like water swallowing a stone. The alien woman drew her blade. Ready to defend him, Callan spoke, his voice carrying an echo, not entirely his own. "I do not want to fight you," he said. "Stand down and feel what I feel." The leader laughed, a harsh bark that bounced off the glowing walls. "You feel nothing but misplaced hope." He growled, "Hope is weakness." He signaled, and his soldiers advanced again. This time, aiming at the woman. Callan's heart clenched. In a breath, he reached deeper into the relic's power. A third pulse thundered out, this one sharper. Cooler, the air thickened, and time seemed to slow. He saw each enemy step, each widening eye, each trembling finger on a trigger. With a thought, he shifted the energy, bending it like a river toward. Calm, blasters lowered, knees buckled, voices softened. The soldiers stared at their own hands, as if seeing them for the first time. Memories of their families, of peaceful skies, of songs under moonlight filled their minds. Some began to cry. Others fell to the floor in shock. Only the leader remained unmoved, his will razor sharp. He roared and charged, blade drawn. Callan could feel the clash coming. But the relic offered no more gentle waves. It demanded a choice to fend with force or step aside. He remembered the Queen's whisper. Compassion, he lowered his glowing arm and stepped forward calmly. The leader raised his blade to strike. Callan caught the strike with a hand of pure light, the energy forming a shield around his palm. The metal hissed against the barrier, sparks falling like tiny stars. "Look at my scar," Callan said, his voice quiet yet unbreakable. The leader glared, his own armor reflecting the orange glow. "This mark was given by sacrifice, not by conquest." Callan continued, "Feel it, and know the truth." He let a thread of the relic's warmth flow into the leader's blade. And down his arm, memories not his own poured into the warrior. The Queen placing the child in safety. The woman carrying him through fire. Strangers on earth raising him with kindness. Compassion is not weakness. The leader's arms shook, his breath ragged. The blade clattered to the ground. He dropped to one knee, head bowed. Silence echoed through the chamber, broken only by soft sobs of soldiers who had once sworn to kill. Callan turned to the heart of balance. Its rays dimmed softly, as if nodding in approval. He placed his hand over his scar, now a small sun against his skin. "I see," he whispered. "Power is choice." The alien woman stepped closer, her eyes shining with pride and tears. "You chose mercy," she said. "That is your strength." Callan looked at the kneeling soldiers, at the humbled leader. He felt their sorrow, but also their dawning relief. "The scar's power is not to destroy," he said. "It is to heal, far above." Through cracks in the ruined ceiling, dawnlight broke, first pale, then gold, matching the relic's gentle glow. A new day had come, and with it, a chance to rebuild. Morning light poured through the cracked roof of the relic chamber, turning dust into gold ribbons that drifted in the air. Callan stood in the center, the heart of balance floating at his side like a calm sun. Its glow hummed in time with the small star on his arm, guiding every breath he took. The Black Sun soldiers knelt in a circle around him, their weapons cast aside, their eyes wide with new clarity. Some still shook with quiet tears, others bowed their heads in silent prayer. Their leader remained on one knee, gauntlet pressed to the floor. Armor dull beneath the rising light, Callan felt their emotions ripple through the relic. Sorrow, relief, confusion, and a faint spark of hope. He spoke softly. his voice echoing through stone halls that had known only fear for decades. "No one is forced to follow me," he said, "but the war ends here if you choose peace." The soldiers looked to their leader, a silent question hanging in the warm air. The tall warrior rose, removed his crimson-marked helm, and revealed tired silver eyes. He stepped forward and offered his sword hilt first, a gesture of surrender and respect. "I was taught to fear the prophecy," the leader said, voice rough but steady. "Yet in your light I remembered my child's laugh and my own mother's song." He knelt once more, sword laid at Callan's feet. "Guide us, flame child." Callan's chest tightened, not with pride, but with humility. He reached down and placed his glowing hand on the warrior's shoulder. "No more blood," he whispered. And the soldier's armor shimmered as the relic sealed his wounds. The alien woman watched near the doorway, hand resting on her blade. Her eyes shone like twin moons, reflecting awe and quiet joy. For 20 years she had carried the memory of a crying baby through burning worlds. Now that child stood tall, turning ancient fear into living peace. A low rumble echoed from deeper tunnels, dust trickling from the ceiling. The old ruins were collapsing. Walls finished with their final duty. Callan lifted his arm, and golden threads sprang from the relic, weaving a path of light toward an open arch. "This place is done," he said. "We walk into the world above." Soldiers lifted wounded comrades, supporting one another as they followed the glowing trail. No chains, no orders of hatred. Only the silent promise of a different dawn. They emerged on a high cliff that overlooked endless forests painted silver and violet beneath twin suns. Soft wind carried the scent of distant oceans, a fragrance Callan had never known yet felt strangely familiar. Birds with crystal wings circled overhead, singing clear notes that rang like bells through the morning sky. Callan stepped forward, heart racing as fast as when he first touched the fire. He raised the heart of balance, and its light spread across the land. Villages miles away paused in their morning tasks, seeing a star blossom at the horizon. Ships in orbit detected a pulse of gentle energy and ceased battle maneuvers in confusion everywhere. The wave traveled, weapons powered down, engines cooled, alarm sirens fell silent. Children peeked from windows, elders lifted weary heads, strangers met each other's eyes without fear. The relic's hum carried a single clear feeling to every mind it touched. Remember compassion? Callan's knees trembled. The power was vast. Yet it flowed like water because he offered no resistance. The scar was no longer just a mark. It had become a living bridge between hearts. He looked back at the alien woman, who approached and placed her hand over his, steadying the relic's glow. "You are not alone," she said, voice warm as sunrise. "Neither are you," he whispered back. And together they turned to the gathered soldiers. "Go home, Callan," said. "Tell your families the war has ended." The leader nodded, gripping his sword to his chest. Not as a weapon, but as a memory. One by one, soldiers spread their wingsuits and leaped from the cliff, gliding toward distant valleys. There, black armor caught the sun and flashed gold, as if the sky itself was forgiving them. Callan watched until the last speck vanished into treetops, then closed his eyes. He let the relic settle into his palm. Its once blinding radiance, now a calm heartbeat. The power remained, but it no longer burned. It listened. He heard the soft echo of the late queen's voice carried on the wind. "Balance is a choice shared by many hearts," she seemed to say. With a gentle breath, he released a final pulse, smaller, personal. A message of peace sent to every corner of the system. Ships in orbit turned away from siege routes, setting coordinates for home. Old enemies lowered banners and glanced at their hands, wondering how to rebuild. Children in hidden shelters felt warmth on their cheeks and smiled, though they did not know why. The alien woman touched his scar, tracing the flame shape with tender fingers. Your journey began in fear, she said. Now it begins again. In hope, Callan opened his eyes, seeing not the ruins of war, but the green of living forests and the blue line of a distant sea. We will need to guide them, he replied, voice steady with purpose. Guide them gently, she answered, and together they began the long walk down the cliff path. Birdsong followed, and the heart of balance glowed just enough to light. Their steps, behind them, the ancient temple stones settled into quiet rest. Their prophecy fulfilled. Ahead, the world breathed like a child waking from a nightmare. And in the center of that new dawn walked a human once lost, an alien once bound. By duty and a single shared flame that would never fade.